Keynote speakers, some come free, some come for a fee, right? Keynote speakers are the ones, once again, that will set the tone for your event. That means that they get you. That means that they're willing to be in alignment with you. That means that they understand your mission with having this event. And that means that they're passionate about delivering more than what you're paying them. Because you'll have some speakers who will say yes because there's a dollar sign connected to it. And you'll also have some speakers who are passionate and have something really valuable to say and can add such richness to your event, right? And they may not be known. So this is not about getting an international speaker, a renowned speaker, or a well-known speaker. This is about getting a keynote speaker. You know, on that piano, that keynote, that when you hit that note, it just sends chills up and down your spine. You feel it when the person hits that keynote, that note that sets the tone and the atmosphere for the event. That's what your keynote is designed to do. Well, that's what I look for when I look for a keynote. So number one, help me out inside the chat room. And guess what? I'll have something special for you at the end. So your keynote, number one, global in nature, meaning that not global, renowned, international speaker, number one motivational, 17,000 awards. That could mean absolutely nothing when they hit the stage and they don't connect with your audience. But it could mean the world if they're bringing that value and education and expertise and award winning behind them. So there's actors who are just as good as Denzel, just probably didn't put in the work, haven't won as many awards, but they're getting there and they have the oomph. They have that it thing about them, right? My girl, she says they have that it factor, right? So global in nature, when I say number one of the characteristics that you should look for in a keynote speaker is that their message is global enough that it can expand, whether they're talking to women, young girls, they're willing, their message can stretch, right? And still have a far enough reach without losing the people. So they're global in nature. Also, they've been around. They've been around. Your keynote should have been around, seen some things, right? So you also want to make sure that your keynote speaker has been around. Yeah, they've been around. They've been up and down, used, abused, right? They've been called on. They've been sat down. They've been international. They've been local, right? But they're doing the work. They're global in nature also. Social media wise, they're global. What do I mean by that? Global meaning that you can engage and connect with them on different platforms. So people, when they begin to do their Google search on who your keynote speaker is, they're going to come up with some juicy stuff that's going to make them not only want to purchase their ticket right now, but maybe even invest in somebody else getting a ticket. So global in nature, you want someone who is like around the way, someone who is accessible yet not so accessible, someone who has the influence, but we'll get into that because that's another number. That's actually I think that's number, that goes down to number 6. So number 1 is global in nature. Yeah, they should be Google-licious. That's my thing. They should be Google-licious. Yeah. Number 2, inspiring. It's 3 I's. Inspiring, intimate, and in alignment. Inspiring, not just rah, rah, rah. We want the motivation, right? Because we want the energy moving, right? But it should also be inspiring where it's heartfelt. So your before you contract them, do your due diligence. Are they inspiring? Are they just one that'll constantly step on toes? Sometimes that doesn't feel good to your audience. If you have a step on your toe keynote speaker, you have to kind of weigh, what kind of event am I having? This event, do these people need to be celebrated? Do these people need their toes stepped on? Do they need a little taste of reality? Or do they need somebody to nurture them? So you have to understand, based on the theme and the concept of your event, what kind of keynote speaker are you looking for? Because regardless of what, you could get a keynote speaker to come in and they step on everybody's toes and they feel oh so bad about themselves, right? And now it takes away from the theme of your event. And now people are wondering why they're just, it takes them back to why I'm so messed up instead of how I can get out of this rut. So you got to be careful with the speakers you get. Then it's also the rah-rah motivational speakers who's like, all right, they've quoted everybody in the world, but there's no intimacy. So the intimacy comes in the personal stories. The intimacy comes in the storytelling gift that a keynote speaker should possess. So they should be inspiring, intimate, and in alignment. They should make the people in the audience feel as if they're talking to them. Not, girl, you're talking to me because I'm all so jacked up, but girl, you're talking to me because I can relate, been there. I felt like it was just girlfriends talking across the table. Or I felt like you were just talking to me and you were my mother reincarnated, so they should have that intimate feeling with your keynote speaker. Yes. And you can check that out you'll find that out by characteristic number 6. Number 3, memorable. Are they memorable? Have you heard them speak before? Did they leave an impression on you? Yeah? Did they leave an impression on others? What did other people have to say? How memorable was their message? Did it blow up and break the internet? Were there's so many tweetables that they couldn't even keep it to themselves? People come after I do a keynote and they're like, Lucinda, I have notes and notes and notes of what you talked about. And I said, well, that doesn't do me any good. You could have notes. What did you write down as actions? What are you going to do? Because I would say a transformational speaker, especially when I do my keynotes, because I want to know what action step are you going to take after you're inspired, motivated, elevated, celebrated, toe stepped on and everything. What are you going to do tomorrow and in the next 30 days, 90 days to get to increase who you already are, right? So number 3 is memorable. Number four is captivating, making sure that your keynote speaker is captivating, charismatic, and they have this audience influence. They're captivating, charismatic, and audience influence. That means that they can look your audience in the eyes. That means that they are confident. Really, this should be the 3 C's. Number 4 should be 3 C's. There's a lot of speakers out there who don't possess the 3 C's. And that means that they may just be a speaker because they have a powerful message, powerful story, but they may not have they may not be charismatic. They may not be captivating enough to hold an audience for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And they may not have the confidence. That's something that they have to have, the confidence. You can tell a speaker who doesn't have the confidence because they're easy to get rattled and they get bent out of shape for the smallest things. Like, it's like, really, you wanted Poland Spring and we brought you Voss water. Now they're just bent out of shape. They could get bent out of shape for the smallest things. But when you're confident as a speaker, if the microphone battery goes dead, they're able to drop the mic and keep the ball rolling. So you want to make sure that you have a speaker who's going to flow well with the energy of you as the host and the energy of the people that you're bringing in the room, so that they can continue the show even when there's hiccups, when there's time, where you're able to, where you may have to cut down their time. They're not going to get bent out of shape because they know that they're coming with such power that if you cut their 40 minutes to 30 or their 40 minutes to 20, they can still deliver and do what they were called to do. So you want to make sure that your number 4, your keynote speaker, you're looking for someone who is captivating, charismatic, and confident. Yeah? Okay, now. Number 5, message is clear. Their message is clear. Do they have a clear message, or is it all over the place? You ever sat in a keynote speech and you're like, what are they talking about? What do they talk? They went from their husband to their job to losing weight and to business strategies and branding and what happened yesterday on the ride. Hashtag lost. And they're your keynote speaker. They set the tone, and it's like, what is going on? Because now people who are sitting there ready like this to listen now are confused and like, what is going on? So you don't want your audience to have to figure out what the message is of your keynote. So make sure that even with your keynote speakers, I don't care who they are, you want to know what is the title of your presentation, and just give me a brief description, a few sentences of what the people can expect. What will they walk away from with your message, just so we can identify it, right? This way, you're clear. Because one thing that keynote speakers should do is tell, and tell. That means they're going to tell you what they're about to say. That means they're going to tell you what they're going to say. And that means that they're going to remind you what they just told you. So it's tell, and tell. So it's all about telling. So make your keynote speaker, when you're looking at their YouTube videos, their past speaking engagements, what are they telling? Did they tell you what they were going to tell you? And what, so it's the tell. Tell. What I'm about to deliver, I'm about to share 7 ways that you can such and such and such live the best life of your dreams. And then they go into it. They may go into a story, and then they're going to tell you what they just told you. So what I just shared was 7 ways. Your keynote speaker should never end with a Q&A. That's a speaker's position. That's a breakout position. That's a panel. Your keynote carries the weight of the event. That's a big responsibility because they set the tone. Whether it's for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, they set the grounds. Okay? So you want to make sure that they're telling, and then they're reminding you what they told you. So a clear message, number 5. A clear message. Let's heart it up real quick. How are you feeling so far? We're in 5. We have 3 more. How are you feeling right now? Okay, invite somebody. Say, listen, the juice is going down right now on Periscope. I don't know what you're doing. But you're missing out on some juice. Yeah, is this good? Okay, you just jumped in. Oh my goodness. We are talking about some really great information in terms of identifying your keynote speaker. And we're sharing 8 characteristics. And I'll go through them. The first top 5. 1, global in nature. 2, inspiring, intimate, and in alignment. Number 3, they should be memorable. There you go. Thank you, ladies. Number 4 is the 3 C's. Captivating, charismatic, and confident. And number 5, message is clear. So you could get the replay because this one is good. Thanks so much, Lipstick Chatter. She is the bomb. Thank you, Dr. Angela Clack, for sharing as well. So here's number 6. Background. A lot of us don't do the background. Just because they were seen in Essence, Black Enterprise, on the Today Show, I'm talking about myself, Dr. Oz, it doesn't mean that you still have to do your background. Do your background on who they are. Do their background on what are the antidotes that they share. What are the proven strategies and the tips? Are they knowledgeable? One thing that a keynote speaker should ask you when you're asking them to be your keynote speaker is, who is your audience? If they ask you, how much is it, before they ask you about your audience, that is a problem. That is a problem. If they want to know how many people are going to be in, how many butts are going to be in the seats before they do their research, because what will happen is so it's either you, speakers may do that, but your keynote, no, their keynote, that's like like that is like the turn on the lights. That's like your headliner. So your keynote job is to not be so much concerned on how many butts are in the seats, but more so, who is the people that I'm talking to? Because sometimes you may be so excited to get that keynote speaker and they realize that they may not be a good fit. And that's a sign of a good keynote. I've turned down events before because I said, that is not, as much as I can talk to that audience, I can't go there. But I do recommend someone who can. I do. Now, if you want me to come in and talk about this, that, then I'm your girl. But for me to talk about this particular topic, I'm not that knowledgeable in it. So that was important to me before I found out about the dollar signs and the butts in the seats. So you want to make sure that your keynote speaker, you're doing the background on them. So the characteristics that you're looking for, how is their brand connected to your brand? How is their message, connected to your brand? How is their message connected to your event's mission, right? Even if it's just for that moment. How is their message connected to your event's mission? So that's the background. What antidotes have they shared in the past to help your particular audience? What proven strategies have they shared besides writing a book? Just because they're an author doesn't make them a keynote speaker. You get me? Not every author is a keynote speaker or a speaker. So you have to realize that just because they have a book doesn't mean that they are a keynote speaker. So you don't see J.K. Rowling running around grabbing keynote presentations. She was an author, now movie star, so you have to be clear why you're hiring. Now, if you're doing an author event, then J.K. Rowling would be ideal because she can lend information on how to turn your book into a motion picture and a franchise, so to speak, right? So now that's next level. So you want to make sure that the background, that they have antidotes that could be provided to your audience, that they have proven strategies, that they have tips, and they're knowledgeable about even enough about their own topic. You'll be surprised to realize that some speakers are not even that knowledgeable about what they're talking about, right? Number 7, fresh content and entertaining. Your keynote speaker, you are looking for someone who is able to give you fresh content. Now, I will share. I have plenty keynote presentations, but if they request for me to tell my story, then I will share that, and I'll say, which story do you want me to share? The single mother story, when I was a single mom, starting my business, becoming a corporate mom dropout. Do you want me to share my transition as an entrepreneur? Do you want me to share my prison story? Do you want me to share how I'm balancing it as a mom, right? Do you want me to share how I started coaching and working with celebrities and what happens behind those brands, right? Or do you want me to just share how did I get to even the point where I'm at now? So it's so many different stories that a keynote speaker has, and you want to make sure that there's fresh content. You ever heard a keynote speaker who says the same story over and over again, and you're like, my goodness, nothing else happened in your life? Like, you don't have anything else to share? You're sharing the same old pencil sharpening story. So I would only share my story of prison, being in prison and coming out and doing my thing, if they request that. If not, I'll go into Lucinda activate mode. Let's get it. I'm flying around the room. I'm going with the theme. Your keynote speaker's job, one of their jobs, is to sell the event theme. My job is to continue to reinforce, to reconfirm the conferences or events theme, right? Especially if you're paid. So my job is to just keep pushing whatever that theme is. If it's girls rock, your keynote speaker should go right in to why girls rock, what girls rock looks like, what does girls who don't rock, what's stopping them, how did they become a girl who rocks, what's some examples of things that people can do today to start rocking it out, right? And so your keynote will take your theme and mix it up, digest it, and come up with something good, something finger licking, right? And so you want fresh content, and they should also be entertaining, not someone who's going to tell a lot of jokes. A lot of keynotes already know this. They know if you have a little humor in you, use it. I'm personally, I think I'm humorous. What you think, Lipstick Chatter? She had me as a keynote. I think I'm a little humorous, but I don't overdo it. The humor comes in me talking about myself. Right? So the humor comes in me sharing me, right? I'm funny. Thanks, Lipstick Chatter. She actually contracted me last year for her annual event. And she's having it again this year. It's awesome. Go down there. But, and yes, without trying. Thank you. Dope Chicks event. Yes. So, the humor, your keynote you should also look for someone who's entertaining, but not so over the top. So you have some keynote speakers out there that will curse. So you have to make sure and do your due diligence. Back to number 6, check their backgrounds, because if your audience is offended by cursing language and profanity, that may not be the speaker for you. If your If your keynote speaker that you adore and love talks a lot about sex and that's not your particular audience, then so it's important to do the background to say, well, what do they talk about? And keynote speakers should have a track record, a trackable website link or blog or something where you can see what they talk about. So number 6 is so key, that you have to do your background, because I've seen some keynotes where it's like, wait a minute, you hear crickets, because they're like M and F and this and F and H and this and, slap a H and, eat my, and you're like, whoa, and you didn't expect that, right? You didn't expect it, but why? Because you didn't do your background to see what they bring to the table. Now that may work for another audience. Why? Because that's the audience that they go for. And sometimes they say yes because you're cutting a nice check, right? But you have to do your background, number 6. But the fresh content and entertainment is key. So you want to make sure that that's kind of a balance. And if you want a specific story from your keynote, you let them know. Would you mind sharing what it's like, whatever. Would you mind sharing your story in, raising your 3 children and overcoming the obstacles as a mom entrepreneur? So you tell them, you have to pull the reins on your keynotes and kind of tell them where you want them to go and how you want them to direct the presentation. Remember, this is your audience. This is your audience. Number 8, drum roll. Professionalism over popularity. Professionalism over popularity. I have dealt with diva speakers before, and it is not nice. You want someone who's professional. You're not negotiating over a cell phone, right? I'm nothing wrong with that, but you do not negotiate over cell phones and text messages. That's not how you negotiate with your keynote speakers. Your keynote shouldn't respond like that. So it should be a certain level of professionalism. Your keynote should give you the information and the documentation that you need. Signing the agreement on time when you told them. You shouldn't have to continue to harass them for this. This is something that they know because they're keynote speakers, and that means if they're in high demand, they know how to flush these contracts out and get it going. Hopefully they have a team, but if they're a one-man show, one-woman show, you want to make sure that you're getting your contracts back in time. You're getting your photos, images back in time. You're getting the contact information. You're knowing what they're about to sell, whether it's books, CDs, programs, and what is the price range of those things, because that plays a factor also with your audience. You don't want somebody coming in and they're selling $10,000 programs and you're bringing them to talk to women in the shelter. So, and it's also kind of, especially if you're paying your keynote, they're not doing the selling over the stage. They may sell their books, their products, because people want more of what they have because they're captivated by their message, inspired by what they bring to the table. But if you're paying them, it's not the sell, heavy sell from the upfront. Now, the back of the room sales is something else, because that's just extra marketing paraphernalia, giving people more content and information. But if you're paying your keynote, the upfront sales, not so much. Right? If you're not paying them, let them rock out. You got to. They got to eat. They have to eat some sort of way. This is how they make a living. So you kind of have to be willing to say, do I want to pay their upfront speaker fee now, or do I want them to just be all salesy during the keynote presentation? Or how do we curb and come to a mutual agreement, right? So number 8 is professionalism over popularity. I don't care how renowned they are. I don't care how international they may be. Here's the key. One speaker could go speak in Jamaica and they'll say that they're an international speaker now. Yeah, but that's, international, you break those grounds, but, do you understand the culture and of different countries and content, so that's a whole nother thing. But I don't want you to get this shiny object syndrome when it comes to keynotes. I want you to pick the keynote that works well for your event. Why? Because they are in alignment with your mission, your message. They get it. They're captivating. They're inspiring. They're intimate. They have proven antidotes, strategies, tips. They're knowledgeable. You enjoy working with them, and they're putting forth the work. Your keynote speakers may not be the ones who will do heavy marketing for you because they're keynote speakers. You bring the audience to, you're bringing the audience to them. Does that make sense? So here's some things that I want you to keep in mind. How are we doing so far? How are we doing so far? Because I want you to pick some, there's so many great speakers out there, and I want you to pick the right individual, right? And there's so many of them. The right individual who will really knock their socks off, because we have some powerful people out there now, some powerhouses. So you want to make sure that they are, there's people who are unpopular powerhouses, and it's all right. Let them be your keynote. That's fine. But you want to make sure that there's a certain level of professionalism, meaning that they're not so divalicious. And I've met some male speakers who are divas too, and I'm like, whoa, this is what it's like working with you. I think I just heard there was an artist who didn't do the show because he didn't have the right champagne for the Flint, campaign that they're doing. I'm like, really? You're out there fundraising for water because they didn't give you the right champagne? That is a little diva-ish, isn't it? Am I wrong? Wasn't that in the news or something? So yes, as speakers, we are collaborators with the event and the vision. Absolutely, yeah. And as your keynote specifically, I'm talking about. So your speakers, that's a different animal. We'll talk about that on a different scope, because speakers fall in a different category when they're just there to be a speaker, a guest speaker, a breakout session, a panelist. That's different. But your keynote, the one that's hitting the tune, the one that's setting the atmosphere, right? The one that's hitting the tune, the one that's setting the atmosphere. Look for some of these characteristics in them. See, how are they responding? How are they giving you the information